Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. And today we'll be discussing the NCERT exercise for the chapter Human Reproduction. So this is the part 2 of the lecture. So in the previous session we have discussed some of the questions related to this chapter, and now we'll discuss rest of the questions. Before starting this lecture, I just want to give you one information that the images, text and other materials used in our presentations are for education purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners. If you are the owner and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathee@itk.ac.in and we shall remove the content immediately. Please note that parts of the content may have been generated using generative AI, which is experimental. So what are the objectives of today's session? So we will explore and understand the fundamental concepts of human reproduction by discussing the NCERT exercise questions. So these questions, they are based on some concepts. We will understand these concepts by discussing these NCERT exercises. Okay, so we'll be discussing the NCERT exercises for the chapter Human Reproduction today. So let's begin with this question. This is question number 11. Now, what is the question? What are the major functions of male accessory ducts and the glands? So, male reproductive system, it consists of the primary sex organ, which are testes. It consists of the accessory ducts, accessory glands, and external genitalia. So here they're asking you about the male accessory ducts and glands. What are their functions? So let's have a look at the answer now. So major functions of the male accessory ducts and glands are as follows. So this is a table showing you the functions of male accessory ducts. Okay, first we will discuss the functions of the male accessory ducts. So vas efferentia, it conducts sperm from retitestis to the epididymis. This is the function of the vas efferentia. Okay, then retitestis stores sperms that are produced by the seminiferous tubules. Then vas deferentia transports sperm from epididymis to the ejaculated duct, which empties the sperms into the urethra. Then in epididymis, maturation of the sperms occur. Storage and nourishment also of the sperms occur. Okay, so let's understand this. So what happens? The sperms, they are produced in the seminiferous tubules. Then from the seminiferous tubule, they will enter into retitestis. Okay, what is the function of retitestis? It stores sperms that are produced by the seminiferous tubules or that are produced in the seminiferous tubules. These sperms are stored here in the retitestis. Then the sperms are transferred to the vas efferentia. And what does vas efferentia do? It conducts sperms from the retitestis to the epididymis. Earlier sperms were in retitestis. Now sperms are carried by vas efferentia from retitestis to epididymis. In epididymis, what happens? Maturation of the sperms occur. And then from the epididymis, the sperms are transported. You can see from the epididymis to the ejaculated duct by vas deferentia. Okay, so what is the sequence of sperm transport now? So from seminiferous tubule to retitestis, from retitestis to vas efferentia, from vas efferentia to epididymis, and from epididymis to vas deferens. And from the vas deferens to the ejaculatory duct. Okay. And then from the ejaculatory duct, the sperms are carried outside the body through the urethra. Let's understand the male accessory glands now. So there are three male accessory glands: seminal vesicle, prostate gland, and Cowper's gland. So what is the role of seminal vesicles? So basically the secretion of seminal vesicles, it contains fructose, which provides nourishment to the sperms. Okay, so this seminal vesicle activates and provides energy to facilitate the sperm motility after the ejaculation. So basically, in short, you can write you can say the secretion of seminal vesicles. It consists of fructose, which provides nourishment to the sperm. Clear? Or it provides energy to the sperm. Then prostate gland. It nourishes and activates the sperms, enhances the sperm motility, secretions of prostate gland. Now this is very important, provides alkalinity to the ejaculate and neutralizes the urine acidity also. Okay, simply you can say the secretion of prostate glands, they are milky. Okay, they are quite milky and they provide alkalinity to the ejaculate. Then Cowper's gland, also known as bulbourethral gland. What is the function of the Cowper's gland, also known as bulbourethral gland? So the secretions of this gland help in the lubrication of the penis. And it also neutralizes the acidity. Okay, it neutralizes the acidity in the female vaginal secretions. So it is very important to neutralize the acidity. The female genital area is acidic. So it neutralizes this acidity, and neutralization of the acidity is very important to maintain the viability of the sperms. Clear? Secretions of these accessory glands, this is known as seminal plasma, which is the major component of the semen. Next is what is oogenesis, and you have to give a brief account of oogenesis. So oogenesis is nothing but it is the formation of the haploid female gametes known as the ova or the egg. And the eggs, they are produced by meiotic divisions, means by meiosis. And this meiosis occurs in diploid oogonia. Okay, these oogonia cells are present in the ovary. Okay, Graafian follicle to be precise. So basically, what is happening here? Oogenesis is the formation of the female gamete, or you can say formation of the ova or the egg. Now, what happens? There are certain female germ cells known as oogonia, and these are diploid, means it will contain 46 number of chromosomes. In this oogonia, meiosis occurs. Okay, and what happens? Through this meiosis, the female gametes are formed. So oogenesis, you have to remember, this is discontinuous. And oogenesis is initiated during the period of fetal development, means these oogonia, they are formed in the fetal ovary. They are formed in the embryonic stage. And then this oogenesis resumes at puberty. So you have to remember this. Oogenesis starts in the embryonic stage only, where all the oogonia are produced. Okay, clear? But egg formation occurs after the puberty. Why this happens? Why egg formation occurs after the puberty? Because oogonia which is formed, this oogonia, some of this oogonia, they transform into primary oocyte. And this primary oocyte, this is also diploid, and this primary oocyte is arrested in the prophase 1 of the meiosis 1. And it remains arrested till the female attains puberty. When the female attains puberty, then the primary oocyte starts dividing Okay, and it will complete its meiosis 1 division, and it forms the secondary oocyte. Okay, now the process of oogenesis takes place in 3 phases. So what are these 3 phases? First is the multiplicative phase. Now what happens in the multiplicative phase? The follicle cells are differentiated from the germinal epithelium of the ovary due to repeated mitotic divisions. A new follicle cell enlarge and are termed as egg mother cells and undergo mitosis to multiply, which is referred to as the oogonia. So basically in the multiplicative phase, oogonia are formed. Okay, these oogonia, they are diploid. Here, these oogonia, they are formed from these follicle cells. So some of the follicle cells which are present in the ovary, these follicle cells enlarge. They are known as the egg mother cells. And these egg mother cells, they multiply by mitotic divisions. And these egg mother cells, they are known as the oogonia. So in multiplicative phase, oogonia are formed from the follicular cells. Oogonia are diploid. The next is the growth phase. What happens in the growth phase? Now one of the oogonia differentiates while the rest change into the surrounding nutritive follicular epithelium. Now there is an increase in the size of the differentiated isolated oogonium as it gets nourishment. As it gets nourished from the girdling follicle cells, they are thereby transforming into diploid primary oocyte. So what is happening here basically in the growth phase, from oogonia, primary oocyte is formed. So you can just simply write oogonia, it differentiates. Okay, one of the oogonia from, you can say, number of oogonia. Only one of these oogonia, this transform into primary oocyte. And primary oocyte is also diploid, means it will also have 46 number of chromosome. So in growth phase, from oogonia, primary oocyte is formed. Then in maturation phase, what is happening? This diploid primary oocyte passes through 2 maturation divisions, means 2 meiotic divisions. Okay, this primary oocyte was arrested in the prophase 1 of the meiosis 1. Till puberty, it was arrested. After the puberty, this primary oocytes divide. Okay. Now what happens? When at the puberty, primary oocyte completes its meiosis 1 division, also known as first meiotic division, then primary oocyte, it divides into 2 unequal haploid cells. So the larger cell is the secondary oocyte and the minor one is the polar body. So primary oocyte, in this primary oocyte, meiosis 1 was occurring. At puberty, this meiosis 1 completes, and from the primary oocyte, a large secondary oocyte is formed and a tiny first polar body is formed. So this division is unequal. Why this is unequal? Because a large secondary oocyte is formed. So bulk of the cytoplasm of the primary oocyte remains with the secondary oocyte. Now what happens? In secondary oocyte, meiosis 2 occurs. Clear? And secondary oocyte splits into one large ootid, also known as ovum, and a tiny second polar body. Okay, this division is also unequal because a large ovum is formed, also known as ootid, and a tiny second polar body is formed. These polar body, they usually degenerate. Okay, they don't have any role in the egg formation. They don't have any role in reproduction. Now you can see again this meiosis 2 is also unequal because a large ovum is formed. The bulk of the cytoplasm remains with the ovum. Why this is happening? Because this ovum will get fertilized, and after fertilized, it will form the embryo. So cytoplasm, this is rich in nutrients and the organelles. Okay, these nutrients and organelles, they are very important for the early embryo development. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens, the first polar body splits through mitosis to form two polar bodies. Usually the first and the second polar body degenerate, but what happens, first polar body can also divide again by mitosis to form two polar bodies. Okay, these polar bodies will also degenerate later. The oocyte or the ovum matures into functional haploid ovum. Haploid means it will contain 23 number of chromosomes. Now you can say one primary oocyte produces one large ovum and three polar bodies. How three polar bodies? Because the first polar body differentiate into two polar bodies. So these are two plus second polar body. So total is three polar bodies. And these polar bodies, they degenerate. Okay. And these polar bodies, they do not participate in the reproduction, and thus leaving behind one functional ovum only, which is the female gamete. Okay, so oogenesis can be divided into three phases. In the first phase, oogonia are formed. In the second phase, from the oogonia, primary oocyte is formed. And in the third phase, primary oocyte completes its meiosis 1 division to form secondary oocyte and first polar body. And then meiosis 2 occurs in secondary oocyte to form a large ovum and the second polar body. Next question, draw a label diagram of a section through the ovary. Okay, now diagram of section of ovary is as follows. Okay, so this is the image of the ovary. This is a section of the ovary. Okay, so you can see here, these are the, in the ovary, what you can see. So you can see the follicles. So this is the section of the ovary. You can see what you can see in the ovaries. So you can see the follicle development here in the ovaries. Okay. So first of all, you can see the primary follicle. From the primary follicle, secondary follicle will develop. From the secondary follicle, tertiary follicle will develop. Tertiary follicle will transform into Graafian follicle. Then Graafian follicle ruptures to form the, to release the ovum. And remnants of the Graafian follicle, this transform into corpus luteum. So now what is happening here? Let's understand this. So primary oocyte, which is formed from the oogonia. Okay. So this primary oocyte gets surrounded by the single layer of granulosa cells, and it forms the primary follicle. So this primary follicle consists of the primary oocyte. Then this primary follicle transform into secondary follicle, which is not shown here. Secondary follicle transform into tertiary follicle. Tertiary follicle consists of this antrum. So this is a characteristic feature of tertiary follicle. It consists of a fluid-filled cavity known as antrum. So this tertiary follicle also consists of the primary oocyte. Okay. Within this tertiary follicle, there is primary oocyte. Now remember this. In this tertiary follicle, okay, at this stage, the primary oocyte will divide. When it is present within the tertiary follicle, this primary oocyte will divide to form secondary oocyte. And this secondary oocyte will be present in the Graafian follicle. And due to the LS surge, due to the luteinizing hormone, this luteinizing hormone level increases, causes the rupture of the Graafian follicle, and the ovum is released. Basically, this is secondary oocyte which is being released because within Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte is present. Then what happens? The remaining part of the Graafian follicle, this transforms into corpus luteum, which acts as a temporary endocrine gland. It secretes progesterone. So when you are showing the section of the ovary, you have to tell about the follicles. Okay, the development of the follicles you can show here. Then you can see, you can show them the release of the ovum. You can show them the corpus luteum. Okay, clear. So this section is showing you the events also which is happening in the ovaries. Then you can tell primary oocyte is present within the primary follicle. Okay, till tertiary follicle, primary oocyte is present here. Then in Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte is present. Now draw a well-labeled diagram of the Graafian follicle. So let's have a look at the answer now. Okay, so let's have a look at the parts of the Graafian follicle. Theca externa, this is the outer layer of the follicle composed of fibrous connective tissue. Externa means outer layer. Theca interna means inner layer. Okay, the inner layer is composed of cellular tissue with a network of capillaries, and this layer is rich in lipids and it produces hormones also. Then there is a basement membrane which separates the theca interna from the granulosa cells. Granulosa cells are also known as the follicular cells. Then granulosa cells, as I have told you, these are also known as the follicular cells. So these granulosa cells, they surround the oocyte. Okay. These granulosa cells, they secrete hormones also, and they support the maturation of the oocyte as well. Then antrum. Graafian follicle also consists of an antrum, which is a fluid-filled cavity containing the follicular fluid. Then there is cumular ophorus, which is the, you can say, this is the amount of granulosa cells surrounding the oocyte. So basically, cumulus ophorus is a stalk through which the oocyte is connected to the follicle. So around the oocyte, follicular cells. So this is the oocyte, and around this there is a layer of follicular cells. This is a layer of follicular cells, and this oocyte, this inner one, oocyte, is connected to the follicular cells with the help of stalk. The stalk is known as the cumulus ophorus. Ovum. This is the female gamete which is surrounded by the corona radiata. So corona radiata is the outermost layer of the ovum. Inner to corona radiata is zona pellucida. Okay, so zona pellucida is present. This is also one of the layer of the ovum. This is present inner to corona radiata. This is a layer rich in glycoprotein, and it directly surrounds the oocyte. So this is the oocyte. Then you have the zona pellucida. Then you have the corona radiata. Corona radiata, this is the, you can say, layer of follicular cells or granulosa cells out surrounding the zona pellucida, means it is at the outer side of the zona pellucida. Okay, this is the ovum or the oocyte, you can say. This is zona pellucida, then you have the corona radiata. Then perivitelline space, this is the space between the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This is the well-labeled diagram of the Graafian follicle. Here you can see this is the antrum, which is fluid-filled cavity, corona radiata. This is the secondary oocyte. Nucleus is present within the secondary oocyte. This consists of the genetic material. Zona pellucida, you can see. Cumulus ophorus, you can see here. Basement membrane, theca internal and theca external. These are the different part of the Graafian follicle. So basically, theca externa, outermost layer, theca interna is the inner layer. Then you can tell about the secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte is surrounded by corona radiata and zona pellucida. Within secondary oocyte, nucleus is present. Okay, this is the antrum. Then you can tell about the basement membrane and cumulus ophorus also. Now name the functions of the following. So first one is corpus luteum. So corpus luteum basically it is formed when the Graafian follicle ruptures. So Graafian follicle ruptures and the remaining parts of the Graafian follicle transform into corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a temporary endocrine gland. It secretes the hormone progesterone during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle. Okay. And this progesterone helps to maintain the thickness of the endometrium. Okay. When the progesterone is at high levels, then what happens? First of all, it will maintain the endometrium thickening, and it also inhibits the secretion of LH and FSH. Clear? So in the luteal phase, you must have seen the level of LH and FSH is less. This is because of the high level of progesterone. In the luteal phase, there is a maximum concentration of progesterone, and this high level of progesterone inhibits the LH and FSH. So after ovulation, LH and FSH levels are very less. Okay, this corpus luteum secretes progesterone, and this progesterone helps to maintain the endometrium. Okay, and this is very necessary for the process of implantation. The next one is the endometrium. So endometrium is the innermost lining of the uterus. Endometrium consists of glandular tissue. Endometrium undergoes cyclic changes during the menstrual cycle. Okay, and another role of endometrium, blastocyst attaches to the endometrium, and this process is known as the implantation. Then acrosome. So acrosome is present at the anterior section of the head of the sperm. Means acrosome is present in front of the head of the sperm, and it is a cap-like structure. This acrosome consists of enzymes like hyaluronidase. These enzymes, this helps in the breakdown of the outer membrane of the egg, such as zona pellucida, and it helps the sperm to enter into the egg, or you can also say it helps in the fertilization of the egg as well, because it is helping the sperm to enter into the egg. So it is helping in fertilization. Then sperm tail. So obviously this tail is the longest part of the sperm, and this sperm, okay, it is motile because of this tail. It helps the sperm to swim, and for swimming energy is required. This energy is provided by the mitochondria which are present in the middle piece. Then fimbriae. So the part of the fallopian tube, okay, first, which is near to the ovaries, this is known as infundibulum, and on this infundibulum, finger-like projections are present, which are known as this fimbriae. This fimbriae, they help in the collection of the egg, which is released by the ovaries. Okay, so these are fimbriae which are present in the infundibulum region of the fallopian tube, and this fimbriae helps to gather the ovum or collect the ovum, which are released from the ovary during the process of ovulation. Okay. Then these are the true and false. Okay. The first one is androgens are produced by Sertoli cells. Is this true or false? Then spermatozoa get nourishment from Sertoli cells. Then Leydig cells are found in ovaries. True or false? Leydig cells synthesize androgens. Is it true or false? Oogenesis takes place in corpus luteum. Is it true or false? F1 is menstrual cycle ceases during pregnancy. This is true or false? G's presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. Is this statement true or false? So let's have a look at the answer now. The first one, A. Androgens are produced by Sertoli cells. So this is false statement. Androgens are produced by the Leydig cells. These Leydig cells are present. Okay. towards the outer side of the seminiferous tubules. So they are present in the interstitial spaces towards the outer side of the seminiferous tubules. Then second, B, spermatozoa get nourishment from Sertoli cells. So this statement is true. So the sperms, spermatozoa is sperm. The sperm head is embedded into the Sertoli cells. The sperms, they get nourishment from the Sertoli cells. Then C, Leydig cells are found in the ovaries. This false statement. Leydig cells are present towards the outer side of the seminiferous tubules. And these Leydig cells, also known as interstitial cells, they are present in the interstitial spaces towards the outer side of the seminiferous tubules. Then Leydig cells synthesize the androgens. Okay, so this statement is true. Leydig cells synthesize androgens such as testosterone. The next one statement is false. Oogenesis takes place in the corpus luteum. Okay, is this statement true or false? So this is false because oogenesis occurs in the ovaries, not in the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a structure which is formed within the ovaries. The statement of menstrual cycle ceases during the pregnancy. This is true. The menstrual cycle ceases during the pregnancy. So why this statement is true? It's because during the pregnancy, the level of progesterone is very high and the endometrium thickness is maintained. So there is no breakdown of the endometrium. So there is no menstrual cycle. Now, last one, G, presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. This statement is true because sometimes the hymen persists even after the sexual intercourse, and sometimes the hymen can break due to sudden jolt, okay, or due to, or if the female is indulged in some, you can say, sports activity like cycling and all. In that case, also hymen can break. So it is not a reliable indicator of the virginity or sexual experience. Now, what is menstrual cycle? Which hormones regulate the menstrual cycle? Let's have a look at the answer. So menstrual cycle, this is a cyclic of hormonal and physiological changes occurring every 28 days in the female. So this is the average duration of the menstrual cycle. What are the hormones which are involved? First is the gonadotrophic releasing hormone. These are released by the hypothalamus. This gonadotrophic releasing hormone, this then stimulates the anterior pituitary to release FSH and LH. Okay, now FSH and LH are released. FSH, known as the follicle stimulating hormone, this stimulates the follicle development. These follicles then start producing this estrogen. Maximum concentration of follicle stimulating hormone is in the follicular phase, and the maximum concentration of FSH is just before the ovulation. Then luteinizing hormone. This luteinizing hormone, which is released from the anterior pituitary, it ruptures the Graafian follicle and triggers the release of the egg by the process of ovulation. Then the remnants of the Graafian follicle, they transform into corpus luteum. Okay. Then this corpus luteum secretes progesterone. And this LH surge means rapid increase in the luteinizing hormone. This occurs at around 14 days, just before the ovulation. Then estrogen, it helps in the regeneration of the uterine wall during the follicular phase. Again, if the level of estrogen, you can say, increases from the threshold value, then it causes the increase, then it causes the release of the FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary. Okay. So follicles were developing, these follicles were secreting estrogen. So estrogen level slowly rises. When the estrogen level increases the threshold value, so this was the threshold value. If the estrogen level increases from the threshold value, then it causes the release of LH and FSH from the anterior pituitary. So there is a LH surge, rapid increase in the level of the luteinizing hormone, and this causes ovulation. Estrogen also helps in development of secondary sexual characteristic in the females, and its level is also maximum just before the ovulation. Then progesterone maintains the uterine lining, prepares for the pregnancy, and the progesterone level are highest in the luteal phase. Then there is a feedback mechanism. When the estrogen level are low, you remember this, when the estrogen level are low, then it will suppress the FSH and LH release from the endometrium. Okay, why it suppresses initially? Why estrogen initially suppresses the FSH and LH? So that to maintain the number of follicles which are developing. So it prevents excessive follicle development. Primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary, and the Graafian follicle. Okay. But there is a positive feedback also. So whenever the estrogen level is more than the threshold value, then opposite happens. It triggers the LH and FSH surge from the anterior pituitary. Earlier it was suppressing when its level were low, but when its level is high, then it promotes the LH and FSH surge. Okay, that's why LH and FSH are maximum just before the ovulation. Occurs once per cycle and triggers the ovulation. Okay, why it triggers the ovulation? Because LH level is, this causes the LH surge. Now, what is parturition? Which hormones are involved in induction of the parturition? So parturition is a process wherein a fully developed fetus from the mother's womb is expelled from the completion of the gestation. So parturition is basically delivery of the fetus, or you can say childbirth, or when the fully developed fetus, okay, this is delivered through the vagina. What are the hormones involved in parturition? Oxytocin. It directs the full-term fetus towards the birth canal, as it causes the contraction of the smooth muscles of the myometrium of the uterus, leading to baby to be expelled out. So basically, oxytocin is known as the birth hormone. Why it is known as the birth hormone? Because oxytocin induces the contractions in the myometrium. And myometrium is made up of the smooth muscles. So this oxytocin causes the contraction of the smooth muscles present in the myometrium, and these contractions, you can say, pushes the fetus, okay, towards the outside. It helps in the delivery of the fetus through the birth canal. Birth canal is made up of vagina and the cervical canal. Then relaxin, so as the name suggests, it relaxes the pelvic ligaments. It widens the cervix area or widens the pelvis to assist in the easier childbirth. So it relaxes the ligaments and the muscles in the pelvic region. In a society, women are often blamed for giving birth to daughters. Can you explain why this is not correct? So actually, the sex of the baby is determined by the father, not by the mother. Now what happens? Okay, humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 22 are autosomes, and rest are the sex chromosomes. Males are heterogametic, means males produce two kinds of gametes. So 50% of the sperm will have X chromosome, 50% of the sperm will have Y chromosomes. Females are homogametic. Okay, females are homogametic means they are producing eggs, and all the eggs or the ova, they will contain only the X chromosome. They are producing only one kind of gametes means. Now what will happen? Okay. Now what will happen now? Males are producing two kinds of gametes, X and Y. Females are producing eggs with only X chromosome. So if the sperm having X chromosome fuses with the egg carrying X chromosome, here the female will develop. If a sperm carrying Y chromosome fuses with the egg having X chromosome, then it will develop, the zygote will develop into male. Okay. How many eggs are released by the human ovary in a month? How many eggs do you think would have been released if the mother gave birth to identical twins? Would your answer change if the twins born were fraternal? So let's understand what is fraternal also. So typically in a month, human ovary release one egg. Usually one egg is released. Very rarely two eggs will be released. So usually one egg is released. Okay, during the menstrual cycle. So in a month, only one egg is released. Then in the case of identical twins, also known as the monozygotic twins, one egg is released by the ovaries. So this is the normal condition, one egg is released. And this egg splits into two post-fertilization. So after fertilization, the zygote is formed and zygote divides. Okay, the zygote divides into two. So two individuals will be formed, which are known as the twins. So they are known as monozygotic twins. Means they are developed from a single zygote. So there was a zygote, the zygote will divide into two. So these will be identical twins. They are monozygotic twins. Okay, this is the first condition. Okay, now this is why identical twins exhibit the same genetic features also, because they have developed from a single zygote. On the other hand, fraternal twins, also known as dizygotic twins. How dizygotic twins are formed? So these are not identical twins. Here, two eggs are released, and these eggs are fertilized by two different sperms, causing the fraternal twins to exhibit different genetic characteristics. Okay. So these fraternal twins are not identical twins because there are two eggs produced. The two eggs are fertilized by two different sperms. Okay. Now, how many eggs do you think were released by the ovaries of a female dog, which gave birth to 6 puppies? So what will be the answer here? In mammals, including dogs, each puppy typically develops from a separate egg that were released and fertilized. Okay, so if 6 puppies, if the female dog gave birth to 6 puppies, means 6 eggs will be released. Because each puppy develops from a separate egg. Therefore, if the female dog gave birth to 6 puppies, it is likely that her ovaries released at least 6 eggs. So 6 eggs means 6 ovaries, 6 puppies. Okay. However, it is possible that more eggs were released, but not all were fertilized or developed into puppies. So the minimum number of egg release would be 6. So minimum 6 eggs were released by the female. Okay, that's why 6 puppies. Maybe she might have released 10 eggs also, but only 6 were fertilized. So this can also be the case. So minimum number of eggs will be 6. Okay, answer will be 6 eggs here. Okay, so this was the end of this session. I hope this session was quite knowledgeable for you. We'll meet you in the next session now. Thank you very much for listening.